4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody. It's Saturday morning. We are going to be streaming
4, 4,
live today
3,
on
2,
YouTube.
1.
And
Blog Talk Radio.
all right, there we go. We are streaming live today on YouTube as Facebook has decided to put me in Facebook jail because I dared to post a news article, a news video that was done regarding a man that killed his kids, or killed one of them, shot both of his kids. So they thought that that was a little too much, but that's okay. We knew they were going to do that. But anyway, we're live on YouTube. You guys can call in at 646-716-4621. Press 1, we'll put you on. John's running late. Hopefully the chief will get in here today. And we're gonna do an open mic thing today. It's probably not going to be a terribly long show today, but it's been a hectic week for all of us over here, and everybody's been busy. But we're going to talk about a myriad of subjects today that are near and dear, things that have gone on through the week. And Joe, there was something that hit you this a couple of days ago that you thought was very important to bring out. Let's start out with that one.
That was a couple things. You're talking about the Ray Hinton story.
Right. Yes.
Yes, I thought that was we had talked, or someone had sent us the link. I think it was you or John, and it dealt with a gentleman by the name of Ray. I believe his name is Anthony Ray Hinton. And Anthony Ray Hinton, as it turns out, was arrested and charged with a murder that he did not commit. Now, through the interview, which was done by Oprah, not that I'm a fan of Oprah, but even a broke clock gets it right twice a day. She did a heck of an interview. This gentleman talks about, for the first 4 years that he was on death row, he didn't say a word, didn't utter a word. He said, but one of the things that got him speaking was he heard a man crying about the 4th or 5th year. And that he started talking to the man. He asked him, did he want him to call the guard to get him down there? And it turns out that this, because he was on death row at the time, he said this guy was crying, and it turns out that he was the son of a Ku Klux Klan. He was a member of the Klan himself. His old family was Klan members, and he had committed a murder at the behest of his father. But he goes on to tell the story of how he got to know this guy, and by the time the guy was heading to the death chamber, the guy actually told him that he had done more for him in the few months or whatever it was that he had known Hinton than his old father was. But Hinton also goes on to explain one of the moving factors in his life was being able to teach people to love. He said, now, if I can teach this guy to love, that was what my mission that's my mission. He said that during his time on death row, now he was on death row for 30 years. In that process, his mother had passed. All kinds of things have happened to him. It took, I believe it was Ernie Shavers and the Innocence Project and a couple other attorneys to finally get this thing pushed back to the Supreme Court that finally overturned the case. And believe it or not, he did not commit the murders. Well, the other thing that he said was that at the time of his arrest, the sheriff in Alabama said to him, I don't care if you're innocent or not. You know how you people want to help each other out? Now you take this for your brother. When they went before the Supreme Court again, the evidence, there was no forensic to tie this guy. None of the bullets matched. The stories were all lies. But he said the one thing that stuck with him was that this law enforcement official told him, no matter what you do, there are 5 things that are going to convict you. He said that you're going to have a white judge, you're going to have a white prosecutor, you're going to have an all-white jury. And there was a couple other things, but the last thing he said, and no matter what you do, you're still gonna be black. Damn the truth, damn the facts. This guy spent his whole career, whole life on death row. He finally was exonerated, fully exonerated. And now he's speaking out, and I'd love to try to reach out to this guy. And I will try to reach out to him at some point.
That
But-
we definitely need somebody like that. Their story needs to be told,
Yes,
and it needs to be told where the grassroots people really can call in and interact. And we'd love to get him over here.
yeah,
And we're gonna work on that to tell his story, because this system is so broken, and it has to be. And there's nobody, the people right now that are working, they're part of the system, but it was broke when they got there. It's been broken for a long time, and I think we got to come across party lines, racial lines, economic lines, and recognize that it's broken, because we do have a two-tier system. The wealthy and privileged, and the rest of us. And the rest of us can't afford to divide ourselves up by race to fight this system. But I think that the rest of us have to realize that when you talk about the systemic marginalization that's in this system, that put this brother right here in jail. At the time he went, most white guys wouldn't have even been stopped. And that's a fact. It's hard to talk about police reform or the criminal justice reform. And people say, well, here comes race. Well, race is a big part of it. It's just the so-called educated people oftentimes don't want to talk about that narrative, but it's a part of it that needs to be talked about.
well, I think, again, and he's not here to defend himself, but I have to give Izzy some credit, because what he said is what he maintains is very true. The system is working as it was designed to. And that is that it was designed to keep a working class, a working group, no matter how they did that. That's just a reality. And I would say this is not just a two-tiered, I say it's three-tiered, and I'll tell you why I say that. The rich are doing what they want. I mean, hence the term affluenza. We see that in many cases. I mean, from the rapist out in California to the guy here in Illinois who gets off because he committed sexual assault or rape, and the judge said, oh, he couldn't survive in jail. Wait a minute. Are you saying that he is guilty, but now you decided he can't survive in jail, but he committed a heinous criminal act? But I say that for a couple of reasons. Again, so you got the rich. Some of the middle class will slip through because they have the connections to the rich. The last group, the poor, never get through because they got no connections to nobody. So that's why I would say it's three-tiered, not necessarily two. But if it gets to the two-tiered, as the Temptations used to sing, the have and the have-nots, then yeah, then there's a problem. But the system is functioning exactly as it was designed to do.
Okay, now let's add in another factor, Joe, that we alluded to last week on the show that plays out. Training. Whether it's documenting evidence, recording crime scenes, training. And for those that are tuning in for the first time on this show, we break everything down into its basic policing approach. And we come from that and we blossom out. When we talk about training, I maintain that yes, training is always a good thing. We always need more training. But I have a problem when that's thrown out there, that this is the magic bullet for fixing policing, when I would say that we don't fairly apply the training that taxpayers have already given us across the board, which is evident in how we get incidents where some people are shot and some people are taken alive, no matter how many people they shot. And in some instances, they're taken to Burger King. So when I look at it, I see that there's a lot of things to work on, but I think police departments have got to become more transparent and forthcoming in it. And these are not things that street officers don't know. So that's why I don't give police administrators a pass on this show. You're supposed to be the brains in the department. And a lot of the things that you allow to go, the environments that you put there in place, the good old boy systems that are in every department to some degree, they foster some of these things that just trickle down and cause just what we're talking about right now. These type of issues.
But yeah, well, again, Izzy likes to combat us on the training, but only way to get better is to train.
Mhm.
I agree with you that no matter what. Now, it should not be an excuse, which I think that's more to his point. But the fact is that in order to keep up with the changing and social norms, whatever else, you have to train in order to keep up with the changes in law, changes in procedure. And again, the shifting of, let's say, values, for lack of a better term. I mean, and what I mean is this. In Chicago, it used to be felony theft was $300. If you stole some over $350, you could be charged with felony. Now it's $1,000. Now the merchants associations went up in arms saying, well, what do you mean $1,000? We can't afford $1,000 hits. But again, the powers to be, which we elect, which we don't pay attention to, put that in. So the other part of that is procedures within each department. So as you said before, there's 18,000 different departments. That's 18,000 different ways. But now it actually gets worse than that. If you're running 3 shifts, imagine 3 shifts of 18,000. That's actually 54,000 ways of doing something. So it is diametrically opposed. So that's why I will go back to the base argument that we have to have a national policy for something. Everything, everything is not a one size fit all. And you and I and the chief have said that all the time, particularly, let's say, community policing, what happens or what works in Hewitt or Waco or even in Chicago are not going to necessarily fit in the other places around the country or even in the ones I just mentioned. But there's some basic issues that have to go along to each one of those that are universal. 1, you got to treat people right. 2, you have to respect them. They don't have to respect you. 3, the fact is that, yes, they pay our salary, but that doesn't mean that you can just ignore them because of who you are, because of that uniform. Those are norms. And until we get to the place where we can admit or that we agree that there are some basic premises that have to be instilled across the board, this thing is not going anywhere. And in addition to, it's probably going to bother some people, we have to be looked at as people. I mean, look at these incidents. I mean, you just cannot ignore the fact that law enforcement are killing young Black men. I mean, look, come on. Would that be true or not?
Absolutely.
So if we know that there is a problem, we should be addressing. Now, as we do the data mining, as we dig down deeper, we start uncovering the, it's like the onion. You start peeling off the layers of the onion, and it gets stinkier and stinkier. Well, at some point, there's no more onion to peel. But at least you did something. At least you approached the problem and tried to deal with it. And I don't think they're dealing with it. I mean,
Joe,
go ahead.
No, I think, you've got 32 years, I've got 25 years. And so I think we have an insight of some of the stuff that goes on in policing. And I think that citizens don't know a lot of what goes on in policing because they're not told and or it's not made accessible to them. But I think that I'm not very far off base when I say that the institution or the profession of policing is 100% resistant to any change. They don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be told that they have to change with the times. Many departments, most businesses will do a forensic on themselves, a forensic study. We're selling widgets. How can we sell these widgets better? How can we provide better customers? They don't wait till a crisis to do it. Policing is one of the only professions that will not openly introduce concepts and ideas of change until a major incident has happened. And it's not to say that the officers on the street don't see it, because we get notifications of policies, ordinances, whatever. It comes down all the time in roll call. And I really wish communities could actually see some of their local police roll calls before we come into work and we get our briefings and we hear about these new policies or changes. And you'll hear street officers in there complaining, why are they doing this? This doesn't help us. It's not going to help the community. This is your first line people that have not been included in nowhere in the process of these changes. They come down. But I think that because we have spent the last approximately really 40 years, producing results and statistics. That was the mandate, the mantra that went out to street officers. Make arrests, make arrests, make arrests, make numbers, write tickets, write tickets, write tickets. And so even when there were no tickets to write, even when there were no arrests to be made, because you've got your officer evaluations, and in some departments, that was a statistic they were graded by. If my job is to reduce crime, and I go into my neighborhood and I build a relationship with these people, and I get my crime stats down, to where my crime stats are down, but now, guess what? I don't have the high crime load. I'm not getting all these arrests that they're used to. So now the chief is breathing down my neck. Why aren't you making more arrests? My evaluation is now graded low. While Johnny 2-year rookie up front that's writing all these people who can't afford tickets, unnecessary tickets, and taking people to jail for barking dog tickets, he gets a stellar evaluation. And his crime is out the roof. While he's at the jail, who's covering his beat? Working his crimes? That officer who's getting the lower evaluation. So policing on one hand, from the administrative position, they mandated results, 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 results. And then we brought into grants. That was a new government teat that these departments jumped on. And what is every grant dependent upon? Results. We want to see arrest. That's right. Arrest. We want to see tickets. So if you're not meeting a ticket quota or an arrest quota, you're not getting that grant, or you got to pay that money back. So now what does the mandate come down on the officer again? If you send me to write tickets in a high violation area on a grant, after 3 or 4 months, it's safe to say people aren't going to do that violation there. So I'm not going to have as many tickets. But we're still under the grant, so I'm ordered, you got to go write these tickets. So I think we have to be honest as a profession and say, we've caused some of this ourselves.
Yeah. Hey, man, did you see the blue Smurf just came on?
Yeah.
Hey, Smurf.
All right, we got some of the YouTube people that popped up in here. Good morning, Eddie. Appreciate you being here. All right, John. But I want to play a video that right now is real. I guess it's out there on the mainstream and everybody's looking at it. And let me see if I can get this to go, because it's a big thing right now. And I want to get y'all's take on it, what y'all see out of it.
NYPD has released body cam video showing the moments leading up to an officer punching a woman in Harlem. The video starts with police arresting 22-year-old Elvin James. He was wanted in connection with an attempted murder, and police say that he was carrying a loaded illegal ghost gun. During the arrest, 19-year-old Tamani Crum approaches. She is grabbed by Officer Kendo Kinsey. The two get into a shoving match, and within seconds, Kinsey struck the 19-year-old, knocking her to the ground. This morning, Mayor Adams strongly defended the actions of Officer Kinsey.
But let's be clear, they were arresting a person who was being pursued for attempted murder. He was armed with a ghost gun in his belt, and people got in and interrupted while police were taking action. That just can't happen.
NYPD.
Yeah, for me, I agree with the mayor 100%. I think some people have taken the call for police reform or the desire for police reform too far. You don't know everything those officers are dealing with. You may know Pookie or Ray Ray, but you don't know why they're dealing with Pookie or Ray Ray. Joe, you and I talked about this, and you know, if I'm on something, my back is turned, you come up and hit me. I'm not speaking for that. He may have known it's a woman. He may not have known.
Look, man, having been in a few of those things, let me just tell you, I got the SHIT slapped out of me. I'm locking up a guy. I respond to a call domestic violence. I get over, this guy's got what's called the V cut. And if you know anything about prison, you know that there's a certain look. John, tell me if I'm lying. This guy was cut. I mean, he should have, I mean, he's a bodybuilder, but he had that particular cut. And I mean, he's pounding this. He had to be about, I'd say about 6'2", 6'3". And he's pounding this little girl. So we get out the car. I got an S on my chest. You can't do that, sir. Stop. Oh, we get him cuffed up and we finally get him calmed down. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, officer. Next thing I know, I'm seeing Tweety Bird. I'm having visions. I'm like, what just happened? This little numbskull hit me so hard. She jumped on my back. She slapped me so hard. She left fingerprints on my face. She hauled off and hit me like I had stole something. So I'll just let you guess what my reaction was. But suffice to say that, and this was long before these new, you have to do certain things. As she told me, and her quote was, I loved him. You did what? But you called us here. He's knocking your boots off. And this is what you do? Suffice to say, let's just say that I cut him loose and I left. So when I get to the station, you know, there's still like fingerprints on my face. And from then on, I learned my lessons: never turn your back at a domestic, because, and again, he's beating her. You know, she took his side.
You know, Joe, but what gets me in this video, and I've watched some of the comments that are going around and the sensationalism of it on social media, because we're already in this mindset of let's villainize the cop.
Oh yeah, police are wrong.
That the cop was wrong, she's a woman. First off, you don't get to live in a neighborhood like that and say the police need to do more to stop the violence. And the guy they're arresting him for attempted murder.
Yeah.
And because you have a relationship with him, you run down the street and attack the officers. And nothing's supposed to happen to you. Now, he didn't jump on top of her while he was on the ground and start beating her. He didn't put his knee on her neck while she was on the ground. Once he removed the threat from his presence, he returned to business of what he was doing. Other officers took care of her. She is arrested, my opinion. She should be arrested.
Yes.
She should not have got involved in it. John, I see you chopping at the bit. Go ahead, bro.
Well, I'm going to be a little different from where you're coming from. And I understand Joe's story. Joe's story is a little more severe. Someone hit him upside the head. She possibly could have had something in her hand when she hit Joe. But this is not the case here. She hit him here or somewhere, and clearly it wasn't like a blow that made him staggered or something. He could have easily turned around, grabbed whoever, brought him down. He had enough time to do that. He took a full swing at a woman and laid her out. And I think that's what the public outcry is. Everything that the guy was saying is true. When you going into a hostile situation, there's a gun involved, attempt murder, whatever, you try to make an arrest. However, I think what bothers people is the overkill. Like, was it over the top? Was it where, did he really have to hit her the way that he hit her? Because yes. I disagree.
Let me ask you this, John.
No, Joe, because this is a show where we talk about police training.
I got you.
Right? You guys are trained to take me down. You guys are trained to bring me down, stop me from whatever. and it doesn't require a whole lot of violence. You guys are trained,
Okay.
right?
Can I-
You're talking about a woman. Obviously, she didn't have her fist ball. She slapped him like on his body, like shoulder, whatever.
But
Do that
Okay, can
require a
can I
punch
can I answer
and
that?
laying a female
Hold
out?
on, hold on. Now, let me say this to you. Understand that, as you said, in the heat of the moment, they're locking up a guy that, for whatever, all that, we acknowledge all that's true. And he's got a pistol on him. So now you're injecting yourself into a hot situation. What would you can't tell this guy or any police officer at that point that you should use less force when these people are coming at you with force. Because as you said, you don't know what's in her hand. But you also got to understand that she saw everything going on. She knew that she was injecting herself into a hot situation. Now, would she have been better off by saying, hey, I think what she should have done is stood back, film, cuss him out, whatever else she wants to do. But she laid hands. There's nothing in the law that says I can't defend myself.
And Joe, if I can real quick, see, and I like the way John, I understand where he's coming from, but I'm saying, see, this is the reaction though, that I think a lot of people have when they see these videos. They go right to what happened. That girl, let's make her accountable. She made a decision in her head at some point where she wasn't involved in any of it to say, I'm going up there and I'm going to inject myself in something I've got nothing to do with. They're not abusing the guy. The officers weren't punching the guy. They were arresting the guy. They weren't throwing him against the car. They weren't kneeing him on the ground. They were arresting him. She chose to come from far outside the arena, and while she's approaching, devise some plan of what she's going to do. I'm going to run up and scream. I'm going to run up and punch, or I'm going to run up and slap, or I'm going to run up and push. She made a conscious decision of what she was going to do when she got there. And she got there and she delivered her plan. And she was met with resistance. So while I can understand John's point, I can also say when you're in the heat of something like that, this wasn't a shoplifter they're arresting. This is a guy wanted for attempted murder. And you can turn around. That doesn't instantly mean that you see a female there. You're reacting to an aggression in a perceived spot you think it's at. And you're going to react. I mean, I understand it looks bad, but that woman took at least 3 or 4 steps to get involved. What was she thinking when she chose to interject herself into that? They weren't beating him up.
And the reason why it looks bad, Stan, because it is bad.
Yeah, but John, no.
And I'm gonna tell you why.
On that.
You use the word accountability. What do accountability looks like in this case? I'm for sure she was screaming something, get off of him,
Mhm.
like women do. And no knock on women. And she basically slept.
But John,
No, hold up, Stan.
I want you to make her accountable. She had no.
I am. I said he could have easily grabbed her, took her down.
No, you're making him accountable again. Make her accountable for getting involved.
That's the accountability. She's gonna get taken down and cuffed. That's accountability.
Why did she get involved?
Hold on, Stan. See, I learned one thing about law enforcement, right? No matter what we do, it always comes back to our actions, never the officer's actions. The officer's actions is always the last thing that people want to look at. So even when I go into any situation, coming through prison and all that, I learned that I had to stay in control of my actions, because soon as the lieutenant, sergeant, and whoever's coming, the first thing they're gonna do is, well, John, my officer's saying, well, my officer, hold up. What about your officer's action? What about your officer? What about this officer being held accountable? Now, I'm not saying that this woman does not need to be probably taken down. Well, I don't see where What's-
Should
We
she have
only confirming,
no,
we only
should
confirming
she-
here,
no.
people are
Should she
yelling
have gotten
every day.
involved?
You always
Should
talk
she have
about
gotten
police
involved?
reform. You
Should
talk about
she,
police-
John, you're missing my point. My question is this to you. Should she have gotten involved? Yes or no?
No. But once again, it's okay for a cop to be in a hostile situation, and we can talk about his adrenaline and emotions, but the civilian who boyfriend or whoever it is wasn't caught up into her emotions and drilling. So it's okay for the cop to be and have a drilling rush and turn around and deck a woman. It's okay. But what about that civilian?
Okay, I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying this, as a civilian.
No, address that.
and
Address that part.
let me do it, and I will. And as a Black person, you're in the middle of this. They're arresting, if it is your boyfriend or whatever it is, for attempted murder. You got 4 officers there, they're trying to deal with this guy. You should know by now. Don't rush up there and get involved. I'm not giving the officer, or he did nothing wrong. I'm seeing the officer vilified all over social media. But what I'm not seeing is a lot of people saying, number one, she shouldn't have got involved. She ran up there on that. She initiated the first lick. Now, and contrary to popular belief, and I'm not talking about extreme instances when I say this, but I'm going to be real from having been out there and done the job, that I don't get paid to take ass whipping. I don't get paid to do it. And you can shake your head, John, but I'm telling you, I don't get paid to take ass whippings. That lady, I'm not saying I would have done what that officer did, but I am saying that that woman did not have to inject herself into that. She had plenty of time to not get involved in that. There was no purpose she was serving by getting involved in it, other than now officers got to stop what they're doing to address her. That didn't help the situation.
I'm going to respond to you. This is a show that talks about reform, training, officers training.
Citizen reform too.
So we know that officers are trained to go into all types of situations, hostile, whatever the case may be. We know officers are trained. You're going to make an arrest. You know whether or not you have backup or whatever, or you just see the suspect, boom, you call it in, boom, you know backup is on the way. You're trained. You're trained to handle this situation. There's people out here, maybe one of his buddies may have a pistol on him, a knife on him. So you got to assess the situation. So going in there, the officer is trained that this may take place, making this arrest. Now, I can sit back and say, well, he should have waited for more backup. He should have done this. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the woman shouldn't have been arrested. I'm not saying the woman shouldn't have involved herself. What I'm saying is that her human emotion got involved because whatever, no one wants to see their family member dragged off to prison, or no one wants to see their lover dragged off to prison. So she acted like the typical person may act in that situation. Cops are trained to deal with situations. Now, the question is, was when he turned around, he had time to see who tapped him. Was it enough to warrant him laying her out like that? And for me, the answer is no. I've been in all type of Joe, even when Joe just described his situation, I don't hear Joe talking about, well, the ambulance had to come and scoop her up and take her off and stuff. And Joe was in a real situation, very similar to this one. So, and I think if we talk and ask Stan Mason, how would you have dealt with that, Stan? Oh, well, John, I would have, boom, put her in this hole and I would have cuffed her, boom, threw her immediately in the car, boom. You may even said I would have waited for my more backup to get there before I went after someone who possibly had a gun on them, wanted for a shooting. Hold on, Stan.
Make it quick.
If I asked Joe Mosley those same questions, both of you guys would have handled that situation differently.
Maybe,
So
maybe.
don't rationalize
Wait a minute.
do stuff and say that what he did, you have no problem with.
No, you said that. I said I would not have, maybe wouldn't have used the force, but I think the danger comes.
That's my point.
Right, but John,
Of course.
my point is this. You can't tell an officer, well, if you would have done this, I know you would have done. I don't know what I would have done. On some things, I got to say, no, you can shake your head, but you've never been out there. I would have to be there because don't forget, I didn't work day shift. This happened in the daytime. I work nights. We could take this scenario. I'm in a bar. It's crowded. It's dark. So it's hard to say what I would or would not do. But if I'm struck, I'm going to react to being struck. There's a lot of variables that are in there. You know, I don't agree with the amount of force the guy used. No. But what I'm saying is we're seeing the officer trashed throughout social media, and people can disagree with the amount. I disagree with the amount of force, but I'm not seeing anyone willing to step up to the plate and say that woman took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to enjoy. I don't care that's her boyfriend, her baby daddy, her husband, her brother. I don't care. You injected yourself in it. They're arresting him for attempted murder, and it's not like they're beating him up. They're punching him. They're kicking him, which we so often see. They weren't doing any of that. And she still chose to inject herself into that. And no one seems to want to call her out for injecting herself into it.
I am. I'm up here saying that she's wrong. I said that. I'm talking about when addressing why people are responding to the officer's response. And let's be clear, it's a response. I'm saying that for me, it's overkill. That's what I'm saying that was got the people outraged is the overkill. I don't think people have a problem with the arrest. Had he knocked her down to the ground, people wouldn't have a problem with it. If he would have wrestled and landed on her, they wouldn't have a problem with it. But when you try, Stan, and let me put myself in a situation. I'm a civilian. My wife attacked me, right? You're an officer, you and Joe. I want both of you to answer this individually. And I turn around and lay my wife out. What's happening when y'all come? Am I going to be able to say, well, she slapped me on my shoulder, so I laid her the F out? Am I going to be able to say that to you and you're going to dismiss my actions? Yes or no?
No.
Now, if you say that way, if you say it that way, let us answer you, John. You say it that way, you're probably going to go to jail, because just off of with the way you said it, the way you phrased it, you're now telling me what your intention was. It wasn't to disengage. It wasn't to get, from your words that you just used in your example, your words.
Knocking her out is disengagement.
Wait a minute, as my body camera's rolling, you just said out of your mouth, my purpose was to lay her the F out. Not disengage, not get her off me, not to end the violence, not to protect myself. And see, that's sometimes, I'm glad you used this example, because sometimes people don't realize when you can take an action, but when I come and I'm looking at your action and you're explaining it to me, within your explanation shows intent, what you intended to do. It wasn't that I had to get her off of me. I actually did work a case where a guy was a semi-pro football player, big buff dude. And I got to the call, his wife had a black eye. Now, what's the cop mindset? He needs to go to jail. But I talked to him, I said, man, what happened? I was in bed. This is a real call I worked. I was in bed sleep. She went out to the club. She got drunk. She came home. I didn't want to mess with her because I was mad that she went out and got drunk. She came home. Now, see, when you take your time and you ask questions and you actually investigate an incident, I had the brother in handcuffs, detained, because he's a big dude. And he said, he said, man, pull my shirt up. I pulled his shirt up. It looked like Freddy Krueger went crazy on this guy. He's shredded, top to bottom. I took her to jail, not him. Now, people say, well, why didn't you take him? Look at her eye. Because in my mind, I listened to both stories. There's no way in the world this 245-pound, muscled up, semi-pro linebacker could hit that lady in her eye and she then does all that damage. I knew who the aggressor was. After he hit her, he moved away. He didn't engage. He was outside when I got there. He didn't say my purpose was to lay her the F out. He didn't say that. But that's why most officers, and we don't hear it, they do sit and listen to both stories. And you know what we do get a lot of times in the domestics? The guy don't want to say nothing. Luckily, this guy said, pull my shirt up. I'd have saw it eventually at the jail, but he said, pull my shirt up. And he, dude, when I say shredded, he's bleeding from where he was laying in bed on his back. And she jumped on him, clawing him up.
Well, let's go back.
Let Joe answer though.
Yeah, please, Joe. 1 second, Joe. One thing I grabbed from your story, right? He says she went out and he was mad.
No, he was mad because she went out, but he was asleep. You didn't hear all of it. He was asleep when she came home. He didn't want to be bothered.
I heard that. I heard that part. So I'm looking at it from a de-escalation point perspective, right? I know when I'm mad, I know I call my brothers, man, yo, come get me, man. Get me the hell out of here before something get crazy. Because even though I may know, I know I'm already mad, she may come and initiate something. And out of my own anger, I'm going to probably say things and do things to further escalate the situation. So I take myself out of the whole equation. Come get me, bro. I'll come back in the morning. She'll be sober. She'll be whatever.
And that's a variable that we can't really introduce into this, because when I get there investigating it, I might have done the same, but I can't condemn that man for that. I got to deal with the facts of what is there and what is played out. But it goes to the point of most people would have looked at her with a black eye and said, take him to jail. He did it. And because when you do investigate and you take your time, and the guy was not violent with us, he wasn't loud with us, he hadn't been drinking. We spent more time trying to calm her down, and she may weighed 100 pounds maybe. But how many officers would have taken that time? A lot of them would have just said, well, he shouldn't have done that and he used excessive force. He needs to go to jail. It's not always that plain and simple. You got to slow it down when you get it under control and look at what you know to be. And he didn't say, I was trying to knock the daylights out of her. He said, I was just trying to get her off of me. He's a big dude. Maybe he wasn't aware of how much force he was using. But when he lifted up his shirt and I saw how much force she used on him, before he even delivered that blow, because when he delivered that blow, that fight was over. I wasn't there, but I had no reason to believe that she got up off the floor and continued to go. And when we got there, John, guess where he was? Sitting on the curb waiting for us, not running, not calling his brothers, man, come get me. I didn't just hit her. Not in the house arguing with her. He was sitting on the curb waiting. I'm glad you used that scenario, because it's easy to look at the amount of force you see applied and say, that's not applicable. But when you slow it down and start asking questions, you know, we find out oftentimes there's a whole lot that this male or female put up with before the video. And I still know that guy to this day. And he's a big dude, bro. I'm telling you, he was big. Semi-pro football player, sitting on the curb, 3 o'clock in the morning when we pulled up. Officer Mason, I know you're here for us. This would happen. And until I was there with him for 15 minutes before he ever mentioned that he was clawed up.
I'm gonna let Joe go. I'm gonna let Joe go because there's something I could say in response to that.
Well,
I don't want to argue also.
No.
Let me put this out there. I've been in a few of those situations. And I will also tell you that there are some people, some women that will interject themselves and tell you you can't hit me, I'm a woman. I've had that happen. And, oh yeah, I can. If you come at me, I have the right to defend myself. Now, there's a thing in the law that says, like force, that you can defend with like force. And a lot of domestics come out like that. But in the case of a police officer, if they're legitimately there for a reason, you can't inject yourself. And there's no justification for not expecting a reply. And some of the stance said, and I will have to say this to you, nothing in my contract says I got to take an ass whooping. Nothing in my training says I have to take an ass whooping. But it also doesn't say I'm supposed to give them out either. So let's just split that up. But I have the right, if I'm lawfully engaged in my job, to fulfill that job. You don't have the right to interfere. You don't have the right to put your hand on me and then expect me to turn around and say, because you're a female. Because if that's the case, and again, I'm not trying to be funny. If it was a child, I could see your point. This is a grown woman. So I mean, we could argue this all day.
We can.
But yeah, we will. But the fact remains that when she injected herself like that, if for instance, let's just say she went up and just for the sake of argument, and you see her approach and say, listen, man, you don't have to do that. Put her hands up and do whatever. And he smacks it, then that's a totally different thing. But that's not what we saw. We saw her engage. Look, don't even try to put yourself in the situation. Put yourself here. He has the right to go home too. You don't know what she has in her hand. And again, we're doing armchair quarterbacking at this point. But the fact remains, she injected herself. That's the bottom line.
I get all that.
Wait, and one of the things that you said, interesting, the words you use, de-escalation. It's interesting to ask someone in a combat mindset to de-escalate.
Ooh, I'm glad I see. That's why it pays attention. It pays to pay attention to details. Combat mindset.
Oh yeah.
That's what that officer was in. A combat mindset.
What mindset was she in?
Come on.
No. She attacked him. John,
I'm gonna say this to you, and I want
attacked him. So what mindset was she in?
I'm gonna respond, Stan. I've been, I hate to say this, my wife attacks me several times.
I'm paying her tonight.
Because what I do, I will say this, that my wordplay is pretty
good,
vicious when I want it to be, and I knew what buttons to push to get her to go over the edge, right? And when she attacks me, it's never to my face, because she probably thought I would have responded differently if she went to scratch my face or harm me in that sense. But you know what I do? I grab her, hold her down. You done? You done? Oh, let me up. I'm gonna whoop your ass in here. Okay, well, get out then. Since you can whoop me, get out. And when she gets tired, and be like, all right, you got me. You got this one. I let her up. Or sometimes while I hold her down, I call my brother, yo, man, come over here, bro. And my brothers come. They be like, and she's cool when my brothers get there. I ain't got to be here. This between me and him. We cool. It's done and over with.
I had that call too.
Right,
Yeah.
but we can't compare a domestic disturbance with officers effecting an arrest on a guy wanted for attempted murder.
I'm just saying though, I mean, because I'm also addressing the thing about what you said about the football player too. I'm
And
in
that was in response to how we say use of force and how it looked.
Yes, yes, right, of course. And I'm just sharing that, like, where I could just grab my wife's hands and hold her down, because she came out of abusive relationships, and I'm not an abuser. I'm not an abuser. I'm not the type of dude, and I could work my hands very well, but that's when with dudes, that's what I used to do. But what I'm saying is, I could have easily laid her out. But one of the things that you said, that the dude was mad, right? Even if he laid down, I still remember the mindset is he was mad. And then when she scratches him, what does that do to entice that anger to make him go as far as laying her out? He could have did like I did, grabbed her, held her down till she calm, or just called the police, hold her, yo, please come here, da 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 da. He ended up calling the police anyway. So that's me looking at things from my view. Don't hold everybody to my views. So when I look at this video, Stan, I do not see a woman engaged in combat. I don't see a woman engaged in violence in the sense of where that cop life or his.
No.
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
Okay, 'cause I don't want to stay on this for a whole show.
No, I'm just making my point on this. I don't see a cop whose life is in danger. Don't see a cop whose health or well-being in danger. She hit him real softly.
We don't know softly. Let's just say he hit her, because you don't know.
She okay. But we do know that he hit her with enough force to lay her down. And
I would have too.
I think the words that Joe used, he was in a combative mindset. Going into it, he was in a combative mindset, and your mindset can dictate your actions.
Okay, well, I'll just say this, John, on it. She initiated the contact. She's the one who chose to become the aggressor. She had nothing to do with it. She chose aggression. She formulated a plan, a direction of travel, and delivered the first blow. I'm not condoning the amount of force the officer used, nor am I saying he was wrong. I'm going to say the video doesn't look good. I don't know all the details. You don't. But I'm saying I'm watching this officer get raked over social media, and I'm watching this woman, by and large, not being held to account. She was combative first. She went at him. He didn't come at her. He's trying to arrest somebody on an attempted murder charge. She chose to inject herself. She chose to go up there. She chose to strike him. There's too many actions that she took. Had she stopped at any one of her decisions, she never would have been met with that contact. I'm not saying the officer is 100% correct and that he didn't use a lot of force. I'm not even going to say he used excessive force. I'm saying he used a lot of force, but how do I know? I'm not him. I can't say what Stan thinks and Stan. When he turned around, who knows what he saw? Who knows if he even saw her? He might have turned around and reacted to where he thought the violence was coming from. Maybe he never saw a woman or a man or a boy or a girl. He knows, I'm trying to arrest this guy. I just got contact from this side. I'm turning around and swinging or pushing or whatever he did. Because I looked at the video and I can't tell if he punched her or pushed her. I can't tell, and I'm not giving it an excuse. I have to go back and look at it again. So I think, a lot of people are bashing this guy on social media, and if he deserves it, he deserves it. Lord knows we go after the police enough on this show. But I'm also going to say we can't just exonerate her and not give her any. And I'm not saying you're doing it. I'm saying social media is giving her a pass. Oh, well, she was just a female. You know what? She shouldn't have got involved, male or female. It has nothing to do with you. When the police are wrong, I can understand some situations. If these officers would have been beating this brother, if they would have been kneeing him,
Correct.
body slamming him, abusing him, if he was crying out there, twisting my arm the wrong way, none of that was going on. She chose to get involved. That was a decision she made. She wrote a check and it got cashed.
I heard you, and my last statement is this, it's real short. If that officer, I'm scared of that officer being on the force for this reason. If she could tap him like whatever, however hard she hit him, and his reaction is to turn around, bow, like you said, he don't know it was a woman, man, or whatever. I could just think about someone coming out, he's in a situation and someone's opening the door, what would his reaction be? If he don't have time in his mind as an officer to stop, to assess the situation properly, then he's dangerous to have on the street based on that analogy. Because his reaction, someone opened the door, boom, now an innocent person got shot. I'm just saying.
That's an overreach.
Yeah, I
That's
won't go that
that's an
far.
overreach.
That's
man.
what I'm saying, Joe.
Right, but when
Oh,
you don't
that's-
know his career and his awards and decorations, accomplishments, or write-ups, that's a long reach to go off of this incident where she attacked him and he responded. That, to me, that's an incredible reach, because we don't know, you don't know his record, John. I don't know his record. We're taking one snapshot in time
Right.
and saying this guy doesn't belong on the street. Why did he even respond? Because of her. I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, I listen, the reality is that I would have reacted the same way. Let me just put that out there.
If you had time to assess it,
But again, I don't have time. I'm in a situation where I've got this person in custody with a weapon. I don't know whether you're friend or foe, and I'm not going to let you take my prisoner. Now, let me just throw this at you. I've been in a situation where whole buildings have come down on my guys and tried to take prisoners. So, when you come down and talk about, oh, well, you ain't going to take my son, or you ain't going to take my baby daddy, and you put hands, you know what I have on. You see that I am law enforcement. Now, again, to Stan's point, if they were doing something wrong, oh yeah, jump in there, certainly. But if just by what you saw, even he didn't have a problem. I mean, they did everything right. The one person we should be talking about is the guy with the gun. He's not the one who's getting his ass whooped.
okay.
John,
We're gonna move along because we're not gonna agree on this show. And
Okay.
I want people listening to hear me on this, right? I guess the reason why I'm so stuck on what I'm stuck on is because I've been in prison yards where 2,000 inmates are at war with each other, and it's race or based on whatever part of the state you live in, which county or whatever. And I've been in prison riots with over 2,000 guys in one yard. And believe it or not, we train where, and I think I shared this with you guys before, that one guy puts his back up against my back. And while we at this war, engaged in this thing, you got whatever comes that way and I got whatever comes this way, right? So something comes this way, I got it, I got this, I got whatever, you got whatever is behind me. And I don't know, man, if I could walk out of a prison yard with 2,000 guys going to war, correctional guards piling into the yard, trying to break it up, riot squads, unscathed. I guess for me, with knowing that we get to sneak in the cell and say, yo, hurry up, while the guard's going that way. And I sneak a dude and I train them how to handle in a riot situation.
Right.
But knowing officers with the amount of training they have for combat and different situations, I guess for me, it's harder for me to swallow and maybe it's me personally and my emotions that's involved in this, but I still stand on what I stand on, and we're not going to agree. It's just the amount of force
and
that
then
I have a problem with.
let's just remember this too, John. For prisoners in that scenario you just gave, there is no use of force continuum. You're already locked up. You're already in there. It's not like out here. We have rules. Even though officers don't always follow them as much as we think they should. We have rules. They don't. The only rule is survival. Yes, we want to survive. But when you guys get done with the prison riot, none of you guys sit down and write an after action report. None of you guys got to worry about the guy in the next block suing you because your knee struck him when you should have done this. I mean, I know y'all file lawsuits, but my point is this. I'm not going to split hairs on it, and I'm not giving the cops a pass. I'm saying we have a set of rules of what we can and cannot do, enforce we can apply, and then even when it's justified, you still got to explain it possibly in court. And when it's unjustified, oftentimes officers get a pass. So, I agree, but we have a guideline over here that we're supposed to adhere to. We don't always do it, but we're supposed to. We're in the scenario you just gave. There is no rules. What are they going to do? Give you another 4 or 5 years? And I'm not knocking or disregarding what you're saying. I'm just saying we are not trained in combat. We're trained in certain holes we need to do, certain situations that we need to do. Cops are not combat trained. They're not. You go once a year, you go to your little grappling, you go to your handcuff school where you have your handcuff. We don't have time to just sit all day and develop defensive plans because you're working domestic disturbances. You're working a elderly person that died. You're not in combat mode over there. You got to be in sympathetic mode. There's so many different variables in it that combat is not something we focus on, even the ones who like to tell you they're heroes. And it's a combat zone out there. Those are the worst cops. Those ones you just said with the combat mentality, they're your chauvins. They're the ones we're seeing every day, and not the decent officers who will stand up and tell you. I'll tell you, I did 25 years out there. The only reason my ass wasn't kicked more is because A, enough people out there gave a damn about me, and B, I was smart enough to know. There's no need in me talking myself into an ass whipping. Why? Because the guy may not have a gun now, but I'm bringing one. And so I think the combat mentality for policing is the reason why so many citizens don't like us now, because so many officers are afraid because they think they have to be MMA fighters and martial artists when they need to be communicators. And Joe said it 1,000 times on this show. We as police are not combat warriors. We are social workers. Whether you like it or not, if you're an officer and you don't like it, go do something else. We are social workers. And oftentimes there is no one else to call for us. It's not a police problem, but who do you call when there's no one to call? And they just can hope they get the right officer. I'm not disagreeing with your point, but that's just my take on it. Joe?
Let me just finish it out with this thought. First of all, the correctional officer is not trained the same way as a police officer. So there's two different trainings, just so you know. And again, the situation and scenarios you gave are not similar at all. And third, the laws are different for incarcerated people than they are for people on the street, let's say unincarcerated, and that's the reality. One's an institutional setting, one's a social setting, a larger social setting. That being said, however, we're not going to agree to disagree. We will agree to disagree on this point, and we'll move on.
And this is actually a good segue, Joe, because John did bring up some good points. We do have some bad officers out here. We all know that. Lord knows we do enough shows on them. But when we talk about the good officers, what happened to the good officers? Where are the good officers? There's so much as to, why we don't have more good officers speaking up. But let me do this before we go. This is a perfect time to do this. I want to bring this brother in real quick. Make sure I got him here. Leon, good morning, brother. How you doing?
Good morning, bro.
Okay, hey.
Everything's good over here. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I want to kind of segue to everybody, and I'm glad you can, we had to catch you when you was available. To everybody listening, I reached out to this brother and wanted him to come on for a couple minutes this morning because I'm not a big TikTok fanatic. I see a lot of stupidity on there and stuff that doesn't interest me. But I saw a video he did that I'm gonna see if I can play it up here real quick, and then on the backside of it, we're gonna get some input from him because it really stuck out to me. So let me see if I can get this up, and I need you to hang on real quick for me, brother. See if we can do this
Got it.
real quick.
Don't want to know the most gangster shit I ever did.
I turned my life around.
Bro, that's just mad respect. That little short clip, and for me knowing you, just seeing how far you came, and I got Big John here, that I really, if you guys, I want you to tell your story, and you guys go back and forth a little bit because, man, I'm proud of you. Could you take your time, give people some hope, and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Appreciate you, man. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for having me on the show, and mad respect to you too, brother, coming from this city. And, well, me, I'm just like a regular guy, like all of us, man, grow up, I grew up in South Waco. You were my neighbor for a long time. And, just like every young man, we get caught in the sauce, the BS takes over and we just somehow, some way find our way into the bad life. I came from a good family. There was no need for me, but it's just being around the guys, growing up with them, you learn to live a certain lifestyle, to be a certain way, and man, it's crazy how everybody just always talks about hate, how much we should hate a person for not being from this side, or hate you for not being the right color, or back and forth stupidity like that. You grow up and you're a kid, you're a sponge, so it's so into you, And I grew up with those dumb thoughts, and he knows whether I know how bad, crazy we used to be, and I dabbled into a little dope game and everything myself, and I grew up that way, and I eventually ended up in prison. But my father always taught me the right way. My mother always taught me the right way. I just didn't want to live that way because obviously the lifestyle I was living, bringing women and cars and fast money, fake friends that I didn't know at the time. But I kept on in that little circus of the BS, and ended up in prison. Got out, did a few years, got out. Everything's changed now. It's iPhones, there's all kinds of different little things, this, that, and you look around and you see everybody, they have their family, their cars, their jewelry, they're doing it, and you come back out and you're a nobody. So, I got caught up again, and I got lost in the sauce again, and I let the devil put those two thoughts in my mind again, fast money and all this and that, and I got to do this. It was just bad decisions I made, one after another. So, man, I ended up screwing up again, and I think I'm doing the right thing, but obviously I'm not. So I ended up being somewhere I'm not supposed to be with a female friend of mine. And because of my tattoos from prison and everything, I'm sure, I don't know. I got jammed up in there, minding my own business. I don't know what happened, to be honest, to this day, but these guys approached me. I didn't know what they were talking about or who they were talking to, so they were talking to me. I had my firearm on me. Shouldn't have had it. I'm a felon. But, they start talking about that they're going to do this and that to me. They don't let me leave. So I pull my firearm and get them out the way. And I don't know these guys, but when they didn't let me out, I figured that was my only option. So I pulled my pistol and I tried to make a way out. But instead, got into a bigger altercation where we ended up having a full-blown shootout in there. And I so happened to get hit 9 times, man, by people I don't even know. Shot me in the face, shot me in the chest, one in the right arm, one to the hand. Man, it's been hell ever since. So, I mean, at that moment, I'm laying on the floor bleeding. I don't understand what just happened. It just happened in the blink of an eye. My friend runs over to me. She's trying to see if I'm okay, if I'm breathing. Some guy crawls over to me on his hands and knees, man. He puts me on my side so I won't choke on my blood. And as I'm laying there, man, all I can think about is all the stupid things that I've done in my life, man. And me and my father, we had a falling out before all this happened. I hadn't talked to him really. I went my way, he went his. But in that moment, I knew, man, I knew I screwed up. I knew that I was not gonna see another sun rise. No, I knew the sun was setting on me for sure, because it's a whole nother feeling to get shot like that than to just get shot and know you're gonna be okay. Yeah, it hurts, but this is totally different. This wasn't my first time getting shot, but this was different. This felt like something that I can't even describe, man. Feel your spirit leaving. And all I could think about, like I said, was all the bad decisions that I made. And I thought about my father and how much of a disgrace, how much of a disappointment, mom, to my family. So I have maybe, gosh, I want to say about 20 something seconds left of life, man. I'm gushing blood. They hit me in my lung, my liver, everything. Laying on that floor, and the video shows how everything happened. So I'm just laying there, blood coming out the sides, man. And all I can think about is I have to make peace with that. I have to make peace with God. I don't know God. I know of him, but I never had a relationship with him. But I had a relationship with my father, and I figured that might be kind of like what it is. So I told my friends to get my phone and see my dad. This is about 2:08 in the morning. And thank God he answered. Because we weren't on talking terms. He answered. He answered. The first thing I said was, "Dad, I'm not gonna make it." Shot. I don't know how he could understand me, but he could, because my face was blown open. But he understood. I just wanted to apologize to him. I just wanted to tell him that I loved him, that I was sorry for being such a disappointment to him, because I knew I wasn't gonna. First thing that came out of my dad's mouth, "Shut up, pray with me." So I began to pray with him. I said, "Dear Jesus, give me my sin. Come into my heart." And as I'm saying these words, I'm saying them with the most humblest heart, the most believing heart. I wasn't just mumbling words. I was actually meaning this from the bottom of my heart, because I was so broken by how much of a disappointment I was to my dad, my mom, and my family, that I really meant everything that I was saying from the bottom of my heart. And as my dad continues to pray, I'm trying to finish praying with him, but I just can't get out any more words. That's when my date starts screaming, and my dad knew it was over. My eyes rolled back, it was done. I bled out everything that a human body could bleed out, man, right there on that bar floor. And as I have guys walking around me saying, "F him, let him die. Let him die." My date, "Please, someone call 911. They're like, "F him, let him die." They make up this story that I had started everything in this over last call alcohol. But really, I didn't even know these guys. Well, I'm listening to these guys say this, but almost instantly, man, I take off. I leave my body so fast. And if I had a body, I was on my knees, face down, in the presence of the Almighty God, in his actual presence. I couldn't see him, but I could feel him. And while I was there, I was just surrounded by the most intense love that you can't even imagine. You cannot imagine how much love there, how much you can feel the forgiveness. It's a beautiful feeling. And to me, it felt like I was there maybe a few minutes. I remember being led by the Holy Spirit, man. And I'm not a religious guy. I wasn't like that at all. And I remember the Holy Spirit watching me and talking to me and telling me, forgiveness, you have to forgive. Love is the key. Greatest commandment of all is love. I remember that. I will never forget it. He said, wherever you go on planet Earth, in a cave or in a jungle, everyone knows the language of love. Everyone knows what a hug is. Everyone. You don't even have to know the language. They just know what true love is, what real love is. And forgiveness. So I'm feeling all these feelings of forgiveness and love, and I'm so in love with God at this moment. It's insane because it's such a beautiful feeling I've never felt before. I've never been a forgiving person, ever. If you owe me something or you do something to me, I'm coming. That's how it was. That's how it's always been, I thought. But this changed the game forever. And before I knew it, man, I was being woken up. My family's at the hospital. They're at the point where they have to unhook me from life support to see if I live, see if I breathe on my own, or take that nap, forever. Well, I had no idea just 4 days later. When my family unplugged me and I jumped up, my sister had to grab me and slam me back down on the bed by my shoulders because I had all these tubes in my chest, my mouth, and my face, everything, and I'm screaming and I'm crying. And they think that I'm screaming and crying because I'm hurt, like I'm hurting. I didn't even know what happened to me. All I knew was that I was so mad that I wasn't in the presence of God no more. Because when I made it to the other side, I did not think about my family, my friends, my financial situations, things that I've done. I just knew that I was in the presence of love, passion, forgiveness, and I never wanted to leave that. I came back. I kept trying to scream something, and my sisters were like, "Please stop trying to talk. You hurt." So they gave me a pen. It was a white pen with green letters that said Hillcrest, Betterstone White, and a notepad. They said, "Here, try to write what you're saying because what you want to say because you can't talk." And I'm screaming, and they give me this pen. They put it in my hand. It's not shot. Start writing, man. The first thing I wrote was W. And my family completely freaked out because that's not like me. They said as soon as I opened my eyes, the presence in the room was so different than the way it used to be when I was around. When I was around, I always had this dark, murderous, ugly energy that you could feel. Now this was something so different. It lit up the room. And man, I couldn't wait to tell people about my experience, what happened to me, what I heard, what I felt. To this day, I still feel that way. And even after I found out what happened to me, and then I have these bogus accusations on me that I started all this shooting over a last call of alcohol. Before I even knew that was a lie, I forgave these that had anything to do with it. Like a real live brotherly forgiveness that I can't even comprehend to this day because I know it's something that God put in me. This wasn't man-made. Man can't give you this kind of compassion and forgiveness.
Let me
and
ask
I really felt it.
Let me ask you this, brother. That happened on the west side, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know if you knew this, but I'll tell you why. When you put your TikTok together, it struck me so deep. I worked your call.
Did you?
I worked that call.
Man.
Right off of Ruby. Right down the street from Too Many's at that time. Yeah, I was there. I was there. So when I saw your TikTok, I remembered you and off of what I saw on that floor and that scene. So that's why I was so proud of you, man. You didn't know that. And I didn't tell you until just now, but I actually worked your call.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing.
But let me let John holler at you real quick. John.
You know how crazy that was, huh?
Yeah, I was there. I'm gonna let my partner John here because I'm gonna try to link y'all up because y'all have a lot in common. John, you want to speak with Leon?
Yeah. First thing I want to go back and ask him how much time he's done in prison. Can you hear me?
Can you hear him, Leon?
What was that?
Altogether, how much time, we call it the layaway plan, where you do some here, do some there. But how much time you end up doing in prison?
For this one, I did 3. I got blessed, man, because the video came out that showed exactly what happened. And no, I wasn't the aggressor, but yes, I had to get punished for playing my role as being a felon in possession of a firearm. And basically trying to protect myself. People I had no idea who they were. No, but I mean, at first the only offer that they were giving me is 40. I had to take that, aggravated. So had it not been for that surveillance, man, I'd still be in there. I would still be in there because, you know, I mean, dead men tell no tales, like they say. No, but I was, man, I'm so blessed to be alive. And the crazy part about that 40 ag that they were giving me, even though I forgave these guys and everything, I was okay with that because I knew how blessed I was to be alive. And if I had to be behind those walls that long, then that's what God had in store for me, and that's what I was gonna do. And the whole time I was there, all I was gonna talk about His love, forgiveness, that. And man, when they blessed me with the 5 and the 4, and they took that 40 down and gave me a 5 and a 4, man, that was God's hand in that too, you know. It was just one thing after another that was amazing to me that kept showing himself to me. God never left my side. And I know for a fact that He never left my side because my heart never changed. My heart stayed the same the way it was when I met Him. That, you know what? Love is real. Real love. Real brotherly love does exist. You just have to find it. Can't be lost in this propaganda, you know, this crazy stuff that the world is throwing out there. Same. But yeah, I forgave my shooters and I forgave everybody that lied on them. Gave them to a point to where it was driving me crazy because I didn't understand how this forgiveness was real. Like, how could I really forgive you guys for messing me up physically, killing me, basically, sending me to prison. And I still in prison. I told everyone in prison that I didn't hate them. I didn't have no, you know, any animosity towards them or nothing. They couldn't believe it. Till I told them, I said that same year I got shot was January 2018. Mm-hmm. 8 months later, I'm walking around the fair, the Heart Attack Fair, and you know, my girlfriend at the time, she's asking, "You okay? Like, what? You know, how do you think you're gonna react if you see these guys out here?" I don't know, to be honest with you, because everybody was asking me and telling me, you know, yeah, you say you forgive them and you love them and this and that, but what's gonna happen when they're, you know, in front of you? You're face to face with them. You're only human, man. You're gonna feel this certain way and that way, and I'm like, man, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But the time came, Mr. Mason. The time came. You were at the fair, and I'm sitting on a bench. I'm telling my story to this older couple because they were asking me why didn't I get on rides, and I'm telling them, well, I can't. If I got on the ride, I'll die. And they're like, oh, you're gonna die, man. But no, I will. I'm like, real hurt right now. I got shot. So they're eating their little funnel cakes, the little older Mexican couple, and explaining to them, you know, I told them they wanted to know, so I told them a little bit about the story. And they're Christians and they understood and they believed. And as I'm telling them the story, my mouth just dropped and I stopped saying words. They're looking at me like, hey, are you okay? And I'm looking, and the main shooter walks about 12 feet in front of me with the bar shirt on where I got shot, with his wife's hand in his hand. And they're just looking at the rides, they're looking around. They have no idea that I'm sitting 12 feet behind them. Mind you, had I been the old me, had I not met Jesus Christ, had I not met this love and forgiveness, passion that I had learned, he would not be standing, him or his wife. But because of God's mercy and his real love, I looked at this man, and the couple that's sitting next to me is asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I look at them, I said, "That's the guy that shot me." And they freaked out. They dropped their funnel cakes and everything, like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I look at them and I smile. I'm like, yes, like I have not 1 gram of hate towards that man. to me, it was such a beautiful October night. The breeze was real pretty. The moon was out. Man, that man was enjoying life with his loved one. And I knew at that point that the love that I felt, the forgiveness that I felt, only comes from one place, because that's not possible. That's not possible for someone to hurt you that bad and for you to not have any kind of pity in a negative way. Once I felt that true love and true forgiveness right there, I knew that everything I went through was real. I accepted it 1,000%. And I just knew, and I was so happy that he was enjoying his family, his life, and I was enjoying my family and my life that God gave me. You know?
Wow.
Stan.
No, it's something.
Go ahead, John.
It's
No.
something out of this world.
No, he's the guest. Go ahead. I'm sorry. The floor is yours, brother.
What's that?
The floor is yours.
Man, we're in awe right now, bro. Just listening to you, and I hope all the listeners are listening to this. And I'm actually gonna cut this up and edit it, just your part by yourself, because we got some deep ties together, and you didn't even know it. I knew when I saw the clip, and when I asked you to come, and you.
And I had no idea.
Yep. If you go back and pull the reports, you'll see mine.
Hey, Stan, something that
Oh man, that's amazing.
he talked about forgiveness, and when people talk about change is a process. For some it happens instantly, but I think that overall is a process. And I remember when I was going through the process of change, and of course someone asked me, yo, man, if you see the dude that testified against you, mind you, I'm sitting there with 40 years, what would you do? I said, what you mean what I would do? To be honest with you, like he said, at first I didn't know what I would do. And I remember administration made a mistake and sent me to the prison that he was at. And when I got there, I says, he's still here? And dude was like, yeah, he is such and such block. And I was contemplating change. And I prayed that God took me out of that facility because I didn't know what I might have done. Because I was afraid that that anger would have rose up in me. And had I seen him, I would have attacked him. So when he talks about change and being actually in the presence of the person, and I relate to that shit so good, man. Excuse my expression, brother. But you know, he's a strong dude, man, because like I said, I didn't know what I would do. I don't, and like I said, for me, change is gradual, man. It's a process, and something that we stay consistently in, as far as our changing. But big ups to the brother, man, and I'm glad that he found change, man, because it's always, for most, it's always extreme circumstances that bring about these changes. You know, for me, it was 40 years in prison. And then even when I had my 40 years, it wasn't immediately that change took place. It was some years in, because I still had a street mentality in prison and was running around the prison like I wanted to be the biggest gangster in the prison. But the one thing, and when I got to the place of change, I was afraid to change. And that's what I wanted to ask him. Was he ever afraid to change? Because I was in an environment where if you was a Christian or a Muslim or something, people began to look at you like, oh, that's the good brother or whatever. And you still got to have a mentality like, yo, bro, you still can get it. Don't think it's sweet because I'm trying to do right. So he knows what I'm talking about. Can you speak to that, brother?
I feel you 1,000% on that, bro. I feel you. Before I did this time, I did 5, and I became a member of Tango Blast. And I walked around on the same thing, man. Nothing but destruction was on my mind. And I spent most of that time in prison, inside of prison, so I didn't know how to act right. But this time around, when I went back, it was different. I still had the respect that I had, but I didn't carry myself the way I used to. This time I carried myself with love, compassion for everyone. I mean, everyone, child molesters and everything. Everyone, everybody would look at me like, are you for real, bro? I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious because I knew that the person that was walking with me isn't anybody for me. And yeah, you know, you have to walk around, not super stiff, but you have to walk around and know, you know, you can't play with me that way. But at the same time, we have that decision to make at that moment. We can change things. Only we can. People can hype you up all day long and you can hype yourself up in your mind. Like, man, I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look like this. I don't want to like that. And you have to make that choice, man. At the end of the day, it's just you. You're the one that's going to deal with that decision that you made. And I thought about that every day. And yeah, I got in a few little, couple little things in there, but I thank God that I never had to throw a swing. Never had to throw a swing this time. And
let me do this in
what's that?
In the interest of time, brother. If you got a couple minutes, we're going to go around and get final thoughts here. And then what I want to do, and we've never done this on the show before, but I think in honor of you, we're going to do it. We're going to let you close out this show because it just seems pretty fitting, you know, that you and I rehook up the way we did. Because the last time I saw you, you were getting loaded in the back of an ambulance and I was working what I thought was going to be a homicide scene. So to see that TikTok, that's why I reached out to you the way I did, you know, but we're going to let you close it, but we're going to go around with the co-hosts and get their final thoughts, bro. And we're going to let you close this show the way you want to. But let me go. Big Joe, you've been listening to a lot, Joe. You're muted, Joe. There you go.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there to unravel. But again, let me give big praise to Big John, or Lil John in this case, Smurf. Man, you always bring something to the caller. Have nothing but respect for you too. But let me say this to you, brothers, and to anyone else listening. Understand that the word is the same, no matter what religion. We get it confused because we choose to confuse it. But I will say this and understand it. You can never have a testimony without having the test. And I'll leave it at that.
Big John, final thoughts, bro.
Yeah, I get it when we talk about change and hearing where his beginning was, where he came from good parents, all the things that, and that's my background, man. Like, I don't have a sob story to tell people. My life wasn't bad, none of that. I grew up well. And the things that are deposited in us are still in us. And it's the word change is not fitting for a brother who comes from a life like that. Is more so growth. The seeds that were planted in him, that was watered over the years, and sometimes it's different experiences in life that brings these things out of us, and it's a growing a thing about growth with us versus change, because we started out as good kids, and at some point we veered off and went in the wrong directions. But I say this, man. I remember walking down the street numerous times. I used to see the blades of grass sticking up through the cement cracked. And I would just walk by. And then one day I heard the minister teaching on the struggle that blade of grass must have had to crack the cement to come into existence, to life. God said, be, and it is. And for me, that blade of grass and that cement was my heart, having a heart of stone. And God said, be, and growth took place. That plant came through the cement, and out came the person who I'm becoming today. God uses people such as yourself because your walk is a testimony. Not what you're saying here. I get what you're saying. Joe and Stan get what you're saying, but it's your walk. Because there's a lot of men who are like you, who were like you, are still like the way you used to be. And they on the fence of coming about into this change or this growth. And some of them are afraid, but they are looking at it. If God can take you and turn you from what you was, and you stand here as the man that you are today, I'm far worse. I'm far less of a demon than John and the good brother were. And these people are making changes because they see that you still have probably even an even greater amount of respect today, because it wasn't respect back then, it was fear. A lot of people feared when we walked through the prisons or the streets, and it wasn't respect. We call it respect, but it's not respect. People respect you now because you're a brother that will show love. You're a brother that with a giving heart. So I don't want to take up too much time, bro, but I salute you, bro. And it's not what I hear being verbalized, but it's what I'm visualizing in my head and your walk. And believe me, there's dudes that are in prison who are no longer vicious dudes, who are no longer criminals, and they just haven't had the opportunity to get out, but they're sharing the good word, and they walk in the good word as a result of your walk. So I want to leave you with that.
Brother, now what I'm gonna ask you to
Appreciate
do, Leon, you got about 3 minutes, brother. There'll be no other words spoken after you today, bro. This is fitting of you, and you took so much time out today to be here with us. And I'm really humble. For me, bro, it's like a coming home, just having you here. And I saved that little nugget that I knew you never knew to share with you today.
Never knew.
Yeah, but brother, you got the last 3 minutes of the show are yours. However you want to close the show, and what do you want to say, not just to the free world, but the locked up world? And when I say locked up world, I'm not necessarily talking about the people in prison. I'm talking about some of these people out here that think they're free. You know, so what you got the last 3 minutes, brother, all yours.
Man, I'm really speechless to know that you were there with me, man. And I mean, it just, so it's man, it's just something crazy. I never knew that, but I appreciate everything you did for me that night, man. I do. And brothers on the show, man, I love you guys. I got mad respect for you guys too. It's been a privilege to be here with you guys today. And for the world locked up and the world in the free that are locked up mentally, and you know, you guys got to open your eyes and see what's really in front of you. Appreciate it. Man, you can't do nothing in this world without love. If you have hate in your heart, man, it just consumes you. Like if you're in the lake, don't keep your head above water, you're gonna get further and further down where you can't breathe anymore, eventually die. But you have that power. You have the power to swim to the surface and get that fresh breath of air if you want it. Like the brother said, man, that concrete, can't let that concrete stop you from growing. Can't let that concrete stop you from getting that sunlight and being what you need to be. God created you with something beautiful. You gotta grow spiritually, mentally. You know, family is everything. Especially in prison, you find out who's real, who's really by your side. Not that group of 100 people that are around you, using you just because of your status. So some people, they're completely lost. You can easily get jammed up in their little world. You don't start making your own decisions. No, you have to do the right things, the better things, walk a better walk. Get away from the crowd that has all these expectations of what they think that you are. You know, deep down inside, you're not that person. You know, deep down inside, you were born to be better. You were born to do better. You know, I want to give all the honor and glory to God for everything that He's done, putting all the right people in my life. Dan, man, it's a blessing to have you as a friend. To have you there on the scene with me, it just blows my mind. But yes, I just want to close out with a simple prayer. You know, bow your heads and close your eyes with me. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with humble hearts and open minds just to give you thanks for today, another day of life, for our friends and family that remain in our lives, and for placing all the beautiful people in our lives that so we need. We ask that you give us direction, a better direction, to open our eyes, see the beauty that you really are, see the beauty in every person, Father God, even if they're going through it, Lord, they're going through it for a reason, and let us be the ones that can show them the love that they need to see so they can take a different direction in life, Father God. I ask that you hands, your angels around Stan and his family and all the gentlemen that are here on the show and the ones listening. Father God, bless them, Lord. Hold my story that you've provided, Father God. This is only possible because of you. I hope that it reaches young men and young women that it needs to reach, Father God. And that they know that love is, that hate will only destroy you. Hang on to hate any kind of way. Thank you, God, for always being with us, for showing us the way and showing us a better life, for always protecting us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And
Well, Mr. Stan, thanks.
I appreciate you, brother. And with
It's
that,
been an honor, man.
well, the honor's all ours, man. Thank you for spending time with us because it was much needed. And Joe said last night, do an open mic show. And it's a good thing he did. Because I'll tell you what, you need to be on the road with your story. You need to be on the road. The world needs to hear that story. We appreciate you making time. And Joe, John, thanks for being here. You know, we
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Amen. Later.
All right,
All right.
fellas. Everybody have a
Yeah.
good day, and we're out.
Enjoy your weekend.
Y'all have a lovely Saturday.
All right.
Too, fellas.
Peace.
God bless y'all.